started. We'll have people join us and as they come in, but we want to stay on track for time here. So welcome everybody. I'm Amy Maestas, Director of the Collaborative Journalism Resource Hub. Thanks for showing up today. This is going to be a useful webinar about how your collaborative can work with corporate sponsorships. And to do that, we're happy to have Emily Dressler, previously of Red Lab, of Rev Lab, and currently of the Assembly, with us to talk about corporate sponsorships and demystify the best practices around them for your collaborative, if you've done them, if you're thinking about them, or even if you don't know anything about them and what resource they might be for your collaborative. Emily has deep experience advising news organizations on growing their and building partnerships that strengthen sustainability. She currently serves as Senior Advisor for Partnerships and Philanthropy at the Assembly in North Carolina. Previously led the Rev Lab at the Texas Tribune, and she was also Head of Business Operations at the Compass Experiment at McClatchy. And she's also an instructor on revenue strategies at CUNY's executive program and UT Austin. Before we get started, I want to just talk about a couple of things. Our next monthly webinar, we have these every month on the last Tuesday of the month, will be February 24th. That topic will be about how your collaborative can get small donor dollars. Claudia Laws of Georgia's Media in Louisiana will lead this and talk to you about how you can do calls to action and various ways you can go and get the small donations from your audiences, readers, communities, and that sort of thing. We'll soon have that link on our Eventbrite page, so you can follow the Center for Cooperative Media Eventbrite. We'll also have a link to that sign up in our next newsletter, which comes out next Friday, a week from this Friday. It comes out every 2 weeks. I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter if you don't get it. It's full of useful collaborative information in addition to links to signing up for our monthly webinars. Of course, if there are webinar topics that you want to see us do, we are always happy to accept ideas. In March, it will be about how collaboratives can write good grant proposals with Sarah Lee from the Fetzer organization. So Delaney is dropping some links in the chat to sign up for our newsletter and our Eventbrite page that you can follow so that you can get alerted when we have the signups in place. Today's webinar is not being recorded to send out after the fact because of the nature of the interactivity that Emily will do toward the end of this. However, we will share Emily's slides and some other materials in addition to her contact information afterward. And if you, of course, have questions about today's webinar, you can either reach out to Emily or me and Delaney. Delaney is here. I failed to introduce her. She's the assistant director here at the Collaborative Journalism Resource Hub. And so we will get started and turn it over to Emily. Of course, drop your questions and whatever in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that and alerting Emily to those questions. So, Emily, I'm happy to have you join us today. Please take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Delaney, for having me. I wanted to let you all know at the outset that since I was a young town hall reporter, I have been participating in informal journalism collaboration. So I love the work you're doing. I love learning more about this. And now that I've moved from the editorial side over to the business and operations side, I'm really happy to share with you how to get started in corporate sponsorships or how to keep going in corporate sponsorships. One thing I will say, we'll do a broad overview and then let's dive into your current examples and see if we can brainstorm together. There are no stupid questions. You are the experts of your collaborative and of your community. So I'm hoping we can sort of ideate together. So getting started, welcome and introductions. I would love if you could drop in the chat, maybe your name, what collaborative you're working with. And, we were just talking about it. So maybe drop your snow totals or ice totals as they are, just so I can get to know you a little bit better through the chat. As Amy mentioned, we'll save some time at the end for scenario planning for our different collaboratives. So let's, be thinking about some actual questions you have, so we can kind of work through next steps together. But to get us started, we will start with a big picture, just where corporate dollars, or let's call it organizational sponsorships, fit in your funding mix. And then let's go through details of what it takes to bring on board a new corporate partner. Whoa, I'm seeing bigger snow totals than I thought.
Emily, we're getting some information that you're difficult to hear, so I don't know if you have a volume or closer to a mic or something like that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Is this a little better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing northern Michigan, so I'm sure, oh my gosh, 20 inches. Goodness. Okay, so first let's talk through, this is just a refresher. This is a framework you all know, talking about the distinct but yet reinforcing revenue mixes and how they kind of relate together. So in these yellow bubbles, or this top line, you'll see the individuals who's supporting us as a collaborative, as a newsroom, as an initiative. It's individuals, it's those foundations, and a lot of you are familiar with foundation support. Yes, I'm hearing the Mountain West needs some snow. We'll send it over. Businesses, which we'll really key in on today. Some people call it corporate sponsorships. We could also call it business sponsorships, or even organizational sponsorships. And then finally, how all these three things work together to create sustainability for our project, for our ongoing initiative, for our newsrooms. So audience revenue, I don't have to tell you all that, the actions we ask our audiences to take are to subscribe to us, to attend an event, to join us as a member, or to donate. And it sounds like coming up, you'll be talking about some tactics for those small dollar donors. I always call audience revenue the heart of every revenue plan, because even if it's a smaller slice of the pie, it's not as big as maybe a foundational grant, it's a key audience metric to show, this is how many people signed up for our newsletter, but this is also how many people then, took out their card and donated or became a member. That's sort of the highest, best action that a person can take to say, we really support what you're doing. That signals to foundations, that also signals to businesses that these are really engaged audiences. They are not only reading, looking at our stuff, our videos, our content, our articles, they're willing to pay for it, even if it's a small dollar. That's a really important signifier. Again, I know you know that. Um, Let me see if I can mute and go get my headphones, see if that works. Thanks, Joe. Okay, let's try this. Can you hear this better? Or just the same? Okay. Um, okay, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds the same to me, but you might have to look at your audio input, that little up arrow next to the mute button, and see if the microphone is selected as the correct one. But it could just be me. Carrie says she can hear just fine, but I didn't want to interrupt you. But
No, that's okay. I want you to be able to hear. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna continue, but please
yeah,
let
just
me
keep going.
know.
It's probably just on my end.
Okay, no worries. Um, okay, So moving to the next, I'll try to bring up my own volume. Moving to the next step, we're talking about philanthropy. I know a lot of you have started with philanthropy. You're comfortable in raising these philanthropic dollars. But I'm hoping by the end of today, you'll see that philanthropy and earned revenue or corporate sponsorships are very similar. They take a lot of the same information to start to build new partnerships, and then they can provide a lot of the same deliverables. So if you're already started down the road of creating long-term solid partnerships with foundations and philanthropy, there's no reason you can't sort of transfer those skills over to doing the same for corporate sponsorships or business sponsorships. With philanthropy, you know, there's all sorts of ways that we are supported as collaboratives, as initiatives, but you know, there's grant making, fiscal sponsorship, also investment as new projects are getting off the ground. Typically, a foundation or a philanthropy or a local foundation, their goals, which do shift over time, but their goals right now align with our project goals, whether that's impact, outreach, etc. So the third tier or the third yellow bubble is earned revenue. And this is simply just revenue we earn by providing sales or services to folks. Some people, you know, would call an event where we're ticketing, you know, earned revenue. We're ticketing an event, people are purchasing that and they're coming to our event. Or we're selling merchandise, which some newsrooms create merchandise, sell that to folks, add it as a bonus. Earned revenue is a bit different. Mission should be aligned, but really the product that these groups are reaching is our audience. They see our audiences, and we need to remind them over and over that our audiences are highly engaged and they really care about their communities. And so that's why they want to reach these types of audiences. We have things they don't have, like emails. We have email addresses. We have events that people turn up to. We have engaged audiences. These are things that, you know, corporations or brands, they don't really have. They don't have the ability to, you know, create, you know, the Wells Fargo event and everyone's going to come to that versus the Salt Lake Collaborative event. It's different. So that's why they want to sort of align with us and reach these audiences. And then finally, diversification, revenue diversification. We hear a lot about that. But I really just want to reinforce that these streams are all connected. With the earned revenue, where this really comes in, which is really interesting for your collaborative or for your newsroom, earned revenue is really flexible revenue. A lot of times, as you all know, philanthropy is based on a project. It's based on a specific reporter even, or, you know, it's very time bound. Earned revenue or working with folks on corporate sponsorships can really offer us that flexibility to, you know, use it for operations, use that revenue to launch new products, et cetera. It's not necessarily tied to a project. So it can be more flexible. And then again, like I said, each of these streams is connected. When we're speaking with a foundation or a corporation, we want to share with them the individuals that support us. We also want to share with businesses the philanthropy that supports us. I've been in a position in the past where I was creating a partnership with a community foundation and a regional bank, and each of them were waiting for the other to come on board as a partner so that they would, because they all know each other in a community. So that, you know, so they were saying, once you get that community foundation on board, that's a signal to us at the regional bank that this is something we want to back as well. So it's very connected, even though they're a bit distinct in those motivations. Questions on that? I'm just kind of flying through that high level. Um, okay, so wanting to talk about value, we won't go through all of this, but um, when we're thinking about a sponsorship opportunity, it's important to remember there is big value in us partnering with a local business or a corporation. They are, and here are just some of the ways it offers value. There's more, but it's a really targeted reach for them. This is not a transactional sales play for a business where they want to sell something, they want to sell cars. This is a really targeted reach. They want to engage with these audiences that are interested, ready to take action, connected. They can amplify. Another value being a collaborative, you are starting in a better position than an individual newsroom. You're able to say you can amplify your message through a collaborative versus one newsroom. And here's an example, working with a corporate partner. We knocked on the door. I was at the Texas Tribune. We were knocking on the door for several years, and it was like, no, thank you. We came back and said, okay, now we have 15 partners and friends with us as a collaborative. Now the door open. Okay, let's start to have discussion. So there's a big value in that you're already collaborating. Again, going to brand awareness, this isn't transactional. Corporate or business sponsorships are about brand awareness. They want to align with what you're talking about, but they also want to have a seat at the table and then be able to signal to the community, we care about this community. We want to be a part of the conversation. These are all things that are really hard to get on, just taking out an ad on social media in a newspaper. This is truly building partnerships. And then for journalism collaboratives, we talked a little bit about this. This is flexible money. This will allow you to contribute to continuing this work. It could be that you get creative together with this new partnership, and you're able to do things you never thought you could with your collaborative because of these extra dollars that aren't limited to the project scope that maybe you have with current funders. And then it's right in the middle there, that second bullet. But remember that working with corporate sponsors is an audience building opportunity. Oftentimes, these groups are big employers in your area, so they will help share messaging. Hey, we're helping underwrite this series about a climate issue in our area. We're helping underwrite an event. We will tell all of our employees about this. Here's where you sign up for this. Here's where you sign up for a newsletter. So this is really helping us unlock new channels as well. So this is not an exhaustive list, and if you have more, drop them in the chat or come off of mute and let us know. But these are just some types, and what I really want to, I hope we get here is that when we say corporate sponsorship, I think that's sort of the buzzword, but what we're really talking about, it can be a corporation or an organization, or sometimes large foundations. The foundations we interact with, those are corporate foundations as well. And maybe as a part of their support, it's not just a grant, but that we provide some messaging, some of, helping them tell their own stories. So, we have national and regional businesses. We're always looking for, do they have like a local marketing hub or a local community relations person? Associations can be considered and lumped into this large organizational sponsorship opportunity. This is a really rich area to tap. Do you have statewide associations that are professional, that are more policy, that are really focused, not exactly lobbyists, but really focused on policy? Or, are these statewide associations? The Association of School Board representatives, for example. I'm just making that up. But there's an association for every industry, thinking through what industries might want to connect with your audiences. Institution, I'm sure you're already working with your arts centers, your cultural centers, parks, university systems. There may be smaller marketing dollars here, but there's also a real ability to have to become in-kind partners, where they're maybe trading you some space. They're getting some brand recognition, and then maybe they're helping you, like we talked about, unlock new audiences, because a lot of our communities, a lot of folks work for the universities and the nonprofits in the arts and culture segments. We talked about corporate philanthropy. I think about, well, the Knight Foundation is a corporate foundation. The Ford Foundation is the foundational arm of a corporation. So I'm sure they are in your state, in your regions, businesses that have set up sort of their funding arm. Those are great folks to tie into. I'm sure your community foundations know where these exist, but just keeping these folks updated and sharing your plans. And then government agencies, economic development councils, for example, can be a rich source of wanting to share their message of what they're working on with this very type of audience that we're drawing, this engaged, interested in taking action audience. They want to share, they may want to share some messaging about what they've been doing. If you think of any other types, I'm happy to take notes, because like I said, I'm sure that's not exhaustive. Let's see. We talked about sort of the types of partnerships a little bit. In kind. I'm sure you all have experience working with in-kind partners. But this is similar to a corporate partner, where we would, give them some marketing opportunities, whether it's in person, whether it's a logo on some of our materials, whether it's, a seat at our events, or just a thank you. Those are exactly the types of messages we want to develop with corporate paying partners as well. They're sharing some goods or services in exchange for us helping support their messaging. It's very similar to a contractual partner. They're exchanging their financial support because we're providing messaging to our audiences. Exclusive or non-exclusive partnerships. I really hate to see exclusivity in partnerships, especially for the collaboratives, because we're trying to make this party as big as possible with in-kind partners, university, foundation partners, and business partners, and create just this, more folks at the table will give us more sustainability, but create, like I said, more audience channels to reach folks. This is something we were just talking about recently, naming roles. Here's a way to get around exclusivity. If you have a presenting sponsor and someone says, well, foundation, the community foundation is our presenting sponsor for a collab. Well, you could bring on a different partner by calling them a community partner, a community impact partner. And I've seen accessibility partners. So really naming new roles in what they're willing to support. We just had that example come up this week. So getting started, I think I'd love to go around the room or drop in the chat and see how many folks have already gotten started working with corporate or business or organizational sponsorships with their collaborative. Are there any folks who'd want to share what they've been doing so far?
Feel free also to raise your hand and we'll take you off
Sure.
mute and you can say something if I know this is a new area for a lot of collaboratives, but for those of you who have had these, really please your experience is valuable, so speak up.
Yeah, go ahead, Evelyn.
Hey, thank you. Hi, everybody. Yes, we are located in North Carolina. Our media is Enlace Latino NC, and we are kind of a baby on the sponsorship. We just started in 2024,
Okay.
but it has been a process, a learning process. But up to date, we have a couple of important clients and accounts that we see a potential to grow, and we have been cultivated a relation with one airline that is a huge corporate, and we I have to say it, we are not afraid to go to from a small business to a corporate, but
Yeah.
we have to learn a lot in the process because it's not easy. But I love how you are presenting. But yeah, and North Carolina is in this growing state, and
Yeah.
we definitely want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's great. And I love what Evelyn said, the cultivation factor, whether
Mhm.
it's a smaller business or a larger national corporation, is really just cultivating the right partner. So let's think about, because you are collaboratives, I first want to start with just alignment being, and when I talk about alignment, let's talk about internal alignment. So before you even, and this could work for your newsroom as well, just making sure you have a clear message before you approach any potential partner. Um, this process, and I had these notes in on this slide, this is very similar to the pre-work needed when you're applying for a grant. What is the initiative? What are the goals? What audiences are we targeting? Even what is the time frame? We intend to launch this fall of 2026. Um, what, as we talked about before, what are those signals to a new partner that we already have some traction? Let's think through, or let's be able to clearly message to our audiences how they support us, how the community foundation supports us, how other people support us. There are some folks who want to go first and be your very first partner, but a lot of folks, I get this question a lot. Who are your other partners? That signals to them, oh, this is something we can get behind as well. We become a part of this bigger whole. Like with a grant, what are we trying to solve for? What evidence do we have that this is needed? We want to report on this subject because it's a missing puzzle piece. We hear it's a gap in our knowledge. We hear it's important to our community. Here's why. Let's see, important, define, this is what we just talked about, but just have a quick statement of your support. We are supported through, this audience is reading this, these foundations support us, these key people have championed this project. These are our leadership, these are the folks who are advising us. All of that creates this, this isn't something brand new. This is something that people are really getting behind. You could easily come on board. It sort of like creates less risk for a brand new partner, right? If they recognize, oh, I know the president of that community foundation. I could call them, or I know this person you're working with from this board. I could talk with them. From a collaborative perspective, again, this all works for your newsroom, but also your collaborative initiative. But from that collaboration perspective, internally aligning, and this can be very simple on what you could offer a new partner. Let's see, we have a landing page. We could offer some logo sites. We all have email newsletters where they could amplify that message through each of our email newsletters. We're throwing an event, so we already use the Community Foundations logo. We could create logo placements all over this event. Or we could create, we're interested in talking with a business about a custom opportunity. Like an airline, are they willing to think about travel? We need to provide travel stipends, or we need to have reporter travel. Is that a custom opportunity that they could uniquely offer? We have an event, we want to provide childcare or food. Is this partner, really interested in that specific custom way to be involved? This is where it gets fun, and I want you to think of this as like creative and fun partnerships. Where can we value add for our audiences? And then, what is this partner really excited about? What's in their wheelhouse? And then finally, before you get started prospecting, and by prospecting, I just mean talking to people, um, coming up with a simple list is probably a good idea as a collaborative. What would be a good fit? A good fit might come out of the woodwork and you didn't even expect it, but just right away sitting down and thinking through, here's like 5 great ideas I have. I'm a member of this association. I've worked with this nonprofit organization in the past. I know this regional business is very interested in supporting community issues, especially in 2026, et cetera. What are those types of organizations, and what are some of my good ideas to get started? So prospecting, again, this is just talking with people. This is what we do as journalists. We share our stories. So starting with that short list, we always say start with your friends and family. That's where you start with anything you're trying to learn more about. Who do we know? Who can we call upon? Which, are some of our audience members connected through corporations or businesses where they work? Would they be willing to help make introductions? The foundation we work with, who, could we ask them an open-ended question? Who should know more about this project? We have big plans in 2026. Who should know more about that? What we're doing, we're looking for that warm introduction from someone. And then we just want to open the door to that conversation to invite them as a partner. So you'll notice these words are not like sell, ask. This is sharing our story, creating, seeking potential alignments, and finding out what's the value for them and what's the value for us. So you'll see these 4 bullet points are key things, and I always miss one. So I'm sure you will too. I always go back and say, oh, shoot, I forgot to ask their timing. But say we get that warm introduction through a marketing lead, through, a community relations person at, I'm going to go back to Evelyn's example of an airline. A new airline reaching our market, they have a community relations department. We found someone who knows someone, and we got a quick meeting with them. What we want to learn in that meeting are what they are working on. What projects are they reporting to their bosses, their leadership teams about? What are their initiatives? What are their business goals? We just need people to know this is a new market for our airline, or we want people to know that we're here. We want to be a part of the community. We're here, or we want people to know a corporation this year. Our focus for our whole corporation is mental health issues, and we're going all in on that. So really just asking, what are your initiatives? What are your business goals this year? I went in to ask a sports team about sponsoring like a related golfing event. That's where I determined their president, board, and all of their employees were focused on mental health issues for young people that year. Okay, well, that was brand new information. I had no idea. So where can we partner with them? We're starting a series. This is something our reporting team has been looking into how can we work together because we have the same goals. Target audience, who are they trying to reach? Are they trying to reach younger people, new, brand new audiences or brand new clients? And let's tell them about our audience. We know we have national research that tells us people who read articles, who come to our events are really highly engaged. They're talking, they're connectors. These are the two sometimes I miss, the start and end date. If you have a marketing budget, where do you start? I've definitely walked into groups and they said, I wish you would have been here a month earlier. I've just spent our marketing budget for the next year. So just making note of like, what is your marketing cycle? Could we come back in October and talk to you about what progress we've made? And then, there's a lot of talk about how to price this, but really what we want to do is start with their budget. What's your, tell us more about your marketing budget, how you spend locally, and get a sense of their budget before we price. So we're building something together. So we're asking them, what is your marketing budget for community outreach this year? They might not know, or they might say, well, we're not sure yet, but maybe you could start to find some alignment there. This is a great question, Sally. This is probably the most asked question. Who's the right person to connect? The answer is whoever you can get an introduction to. So it really doesn't, if you can get an introduction to the CEO because they're connected with someone, start there. If you can get connected, they'll send you over to the right department. But if you can get connected, community relations is a great person to connect with. Sometimes that doesn't even exist. That's a part of someone else's job. Marketing departments, sometimes, oftentimes you could be working with the marketing department and their foundation team. So it really just depends. So really whoever can provide a warm introduction of, hey, I'd like you to meet Sally and learn what her team is trying to do, they will help get you to the right person. Once you talk to them, they'll go, this sounds like a project for Delaney and her team, and they'll send you over. Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's good.
And then a follow-up, if they're saying no, I mean, I've had plenty of, and I almost didn't call this a no, more like oh yeah, we're interested, we'll support, but we just spent our marketing budget. If that's the case, offer invitations. I'm going to send you an invitation to our event. You seemed really interested in the new newsletter. I'll send you a link so you can sign up. Or even just ask them, does this sound like a project someone else would be interested in supporting in your professional network as community relations person? So continue that relationship. Oftentimes you will go into a meeting and say, look, I just want to share the exciting stuff we're up to. We have ambitious plans this year. I want to share those with you. You will sometimes see people get excited about something you didn't think they would get excited about. They sort of key in. And so you can sort of go from there. Oh, you seem really excited to support events. Maybe we could develop that further. If they are interested and they say, okay, tell us more, we're going to take those 4 questions. Hopefully we remember to ask all of those, and we'll take the information they gave us and give it back to them in a very simple proposal. So we'll take all the clear messaging we aligned on, and maybe we already have that information all in a grant we just wrote. But we'll package that up, and then we'll take the information. You are trying to reach these people. These are your timelines. This is what we could, this is where we could partner. This is what we could offer. Daniel, some version of set pricing. Yeah, that totally makes sense. What I try to do is try to never give set pricing, but I do understand what you're saying. If you have any past history saying, we had a foundation come in and support us with this much, a $10,000 grant, that $10,000 grant allowed us to throw an event and, hire totally making this up, hire a freelance photographer. So, if there's some basis in that, you could provide just a simple, let's keep things very simple and never set, here's how much this costs to be a sponsor. But say, this is the ballpark of what we've done in the past. Daniel, is that possible? Yeah, if it's a new program, using some basis of this is how other collaboratives have priced this. This is how other newsrooms in our area have rolled out corporate sponsorships, any sort of signals you have from your market. But also, it's never a bad idea to kind of do your back of the envelope and say, I'm just making this up. This is a new program. This is a new event we're doing. This is how much it's going to cost us to do this. And this is how much time it's going to take. So we really need 3 partners to come in at $10,000 each in order to pull this off. Are you interested in being one of those partners? The problem with journalism organizations is when we price things, we forget to pay ourselves and remember how much our time is worth. So when we're launching a new newsletter or we're rolling out a new event, we need to remember that, our time is really valuable in there as well. So this is tricky, asking their budget. They might not quite have an answer, and then they'll ask you, what do you need? So it's finding that balance between, we could do X, Y, Z with this type of funding. So if we have something, this goes back to Daniel's question. I would love to just have that conversation before I even dropped off something. I'd love to show examples. Oftentimes I just turn around my laptop and start walking people through. Here's some photos from the event. Here's the articles we published. This one got a lot, their most clicks. This is a great one. I'll send you links to all of this. But, dropping off a sort of a media kit or a proposal right then and there can be really salesy. So I just like to think through, let us just talk through what we're doing, and then we can come back later and offer, this is really an investment that, instead of this is how much it's going to cost, this is really the investment we need to do something new. And if you're interested and aligned, this is what it will take, but we know we have the ability to pull this off and do something really great for our audiences. So building this partnership, like I said, I turn my laptop around a lot, but also, if they're a bit skeptical or I don't know who you are, I know some of the members of the collective, but I never heard of the collective, preview it for them, share invitations to events, newsletters. Here's a key story we worked on together. Share intros to others in your collective that they might be familiar with so they can reach out themselves. Contracting or an agreement, once they've you might have put together a proposal, they say, we like it, we're interested. I've contracted with groups all different ways. Sometimes they have their own contract and we just add sort of a scope. Sometimes you create a very simple agreement. It doesn't need to be overly complex. And there doesn't need to be a ton of focus on the journalism that we're going to do. A lot of folks don't understand how journalism gets made and don't understand what it takes to develop stories. So, we talk about we're going to do a series, a reporting series that could be anywhere from 4 articles to 10 articles. I try to keep it very broad, and we're working with professional editors and professional reporters, and the news judgment is in their hands. So as you kind of start to work on agreements, this is where this editorial independence comes into play. We don't have any sort of role to play in the editorial oversight. That said, you can encourage someone to create their own relationships with the editorial leadership team. I'm a former newspaper editor. I'm used to talking with, folks from the community and people giving feedback. But, this is where that editorial independence comes in. The editorial team is going to put together the reporting series based around this topic. I don't know what those topics will be. You're welcome to give feedback, in an independent channel with the editor, but this partnership is for the overall project and not for, there's no editorial oversight here. This is not as difficult as some people might think it is. A lot of folks, I'm sure you all have different editorial independent policies. You're transparent. Those are things to share with these groups. And, I guess my message, if someone's pushing back, well, we want stories on this, or more stories like this, I often say, well, we have editorial independence, and that's why you want to partner with us. That editorial independence is good for you as a partner, because we are a trusted news group. We have editorial excellence. The way we do that is by, having independence and transparency. So you don't want to have any oversight. That's the business we're in. That's not the business you're in. And people get that. They might, the agreement or contract, and I've never seen an agreement or contract that is like followed exactly. We build in flexibility because we want to really create a partnership here. And so we want to be touching base with folks. So this is what we're thinking. We're going to publish these stories around this time. We're going to have a couple events. We might do a survey of our audience, but we're going to be fluid and flexible and partner with you as a long-term partnership versus we're going to drop this report off in your lap. Does that make sense? And then at this stage too, when you're building this partnership and developing or identifying these opportunities to develop audience, we all send a press release about, we have just, this collaborative is now working with this airline. Can we all, try to release a press release together? Will we ask them to share in their social networks to republish some of our articles or to share with their clients or with their employees? Sometimes we need to provide language, very simple language. This is how you can present this to your employees, to your clients on social media. So if we provide them a quick kit or a one sheet, this could bring a whole new audience to our collaborative. We're reaching new people who really might care about what we're doing. They just don't know about us yet. Karen, we'll share these slides. So including, as we build this agreement, contract, we're keeping it simple. They might have one, we might develop it, but we're talking about this pricing or this investment. This is how much they're going to come in with their investment as a partner. Maybe it's one group I worked with, a regional bank was a $25,000 corporate sponsorship over 12 months. So we just broke that out. This is how we'll get that pricing. We'll meet together every quarter. We had wonderful meetings. The editors would come in. We'd all share food together. We actually took over their bank conference room, which was never used. So we said we're going to be here with our students, so that we're going to use this as a gathering place. We'll get together once a quarter and just talk about what we're doing. This is a chance to talk about exclusivity. Again, you aren't our exclusive partner because we want multiple partners, but maybe they're our exclusive regional banking partner. But we want to bring more partners into this project to, make it a bigger party. And then we talk about editorial policies. Here's our independent news gathering policy. We're sort of bringing in all these elements from our discussion. So a contract, an agreement, there's no like surprises. This is all stuff we've talked about together. So now that this has kind of been a high level overview, but I hope you sort of get the idea that this can be really a creative corporate partnerships or business partnerships or organization. They can be creative, flexible. They can be really fun. These can be really champions of your project. Oftentimes people especially in local or regional communities, the folks leading the businesses are also really involved in their communities. So they're also on boards within their communities and help support nonprofits in their communities. So it's all this sort of interconnected web. So I'd love if we could turn now to thinking about scenario planning for you and maybe just brainstorming. I know we're like hitting up against time here, but maybe naming something you're working on and a concern you have, or identify a way you could get started, or what your collaborative is thinking about. If this is kind of so new and we're still thinking through ideas, that's okay. We could maybe do a follow-up. I have my information here. You're welcome to reach out. And like Amy and Delaney said, reach out to the hub as well. And maybe we can, even dive deeper into topics that resonate at some point.
Thank you, Emily. This was really helpful, and I hope it was for people to be able to have some takeaways today. I know for a lot of the collaboratives and the network we work with, this is something new and honestly a little scary. From somebody who worked in newsrooms for a long time, it gives us a little bit of our chest gets a little tight when we start using the word sponsorship and corporate and working in that way. So this is helpful for folks to learn how to think about that. We will send Emily's slide presentation to everybody today, along with her contact information. And again, thank you, Emily, and for everybody showing up today. And please, if there's more that you would like to see from this kind of from the resource hub, we're happy to hear about that. Please reach out to us. I am Maestas A at montclair.edu. A little difficult, a lot of vowels in there, but you will receive a follow-up email from me today with that email address. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe and stay warm.